So why is this topic? Actually, at the beginning, I only wanted to work on exhibitions on cinema in France, and also to show that Cinémathèque française was not the only institution in France to promote film heritage. And when I began to write, I just realized that the period going from 1944 to 1968 was very much more richer than what we thought we knew about it. Actually, my project was totally transformed, and then I decided to reconnect the story of cinémathèques with a broader cultural context. Actually, I wanted to show how cinémathèques became a real part of cinematic life, a place where people wanted to go to see other films, but also wanted to develop I wanted to show that the Cinémathèque was a new place to live a cinephilic life. When you think about this period of 1944 to 1968, you only think about Cinémathèque française because it's the institution which is known and well known, and you only know about huge amount of exhibitions organized by Langlois and its collaborators, but you don't really know things about the context surrounding it and the way Cinémathèque française helped things to change in France. Because in fact, Langlois proposed a model to organize life around film heritage. This model, this was Cinémathèque-musée, what I studying in my book. And this model was very specific because it proposed to collect collections, film and extra film, and to show them with exhibitions and screenings. In fact, this model was very inspiring for cinephilia in France. It was really important for them to go to the Cinémathèque française and to see all these films because programming was very opulent and they could see many films that they had read about in books, because it was the period in which Sadoul began to publish his books, and after that Lotte Eisner or Jean Mitry for French historians or people writing from France. And actually film fans wanted to see the films they were reading about in books. So that's the social ground in which Cinémathèque française was deeply rooted. But things evolved, actually, and niche cinephilia began to develop, and cinephiles wanted to see other kinds of films that they could see at the Cinémathèque française. And they also wanted to see that film in other places than Paris. At the beginning, you from the 40s to the late 50s, you had a quite centralized system. In fact, to see heritage film, you mainly had to go to Paris and to go at La Cinémathèque française. At the end of the 50s, you had different initiatives to bring heritage films outside from Paris, in other cities in France, because people wanted to see this film. Actually, it's one of the big issue in my book. It's to show that this initiative developed much more because there was a desire to see film much more than to preserve them. In fact, it was not a preservation-led initiative. It was much more preservation because they wanted to see again these films and being able to reevaluate them on the screen, and to discuss how film history is written. So that's why other projects like Cinémathèque de Toulouse or the film festival in Annecy, film festival for for animation film, was created. At the beginning, this festival was tightly linked with a museum project, and it has a really important heritage connotation. They wanted to make really lively the memory of animation film. And so I'm trying to explain how, in the same time, the model of Cinémathèque française was quite inspiring for cinephiles, but sometimes also disappointing or repulsive for them. What is new with this book actually is to change the point of view on this period, because we have an imbalance in the bibliography to deal with the history of cinémathèques in France. Actually, when we look at this period of 1944 to 1968, we only see it through the history of Cinémathèque française, and you only think about the Affaire Langlois. And finally, the event is Affaire Langlois. But if you change the point of view and you just make the perspective a bit larger, you will see that the real event is not Affaire Langlois. It's a creation of a new institutional model, which is Service des Archives du Film within the state, in the CNC. Because actually it's a totally different perspective and approach to film heritage. With Archives du Film, the priority is to preserve films and then to help people to screen them. And that's totally different from the spirit of cinémathèques. And actually, what I show with the book is that from 1944 to 1968, we've come a long way to change representation of what is a cinémathèque, what is film heritage, and what is a state mission to preserve that. And we've come all this way thanks to Cinémathèque française, because it was really an impulsion to make things happen, because when they organized an exhibitions, it was a place where the utility of the use of collections could be shown to people, but it was also it was also a place to talk about things and how they were made and how they could serve the community. So when they organized an exhibition, it was also a place to talk about film heritage and why it is important to preserve it, and why it's a stake for a large community. So this period from 44 to 68 during this time, the community concerned with the film heritage issue is becoming bigger and bigger. Another thing that my book can help to understand is or to discover are the other projects created in France from the late 50s to the end of the 60s, and especially to see a bit more who is someone like Pierre Barbin, because when you think about Pierre Barbin, is only the guy who Malraux put at the direction of Cinémathèque-Française during a couple of days before Langlois came back. But actually, you don't see it as someone who was very active in broadcast of films and film culture since the beginning of the 50s, and made lots of things for short films or animation film, and who was well known actually, and who has not the aura of Langlois. It was not a brilliant cinephile who could talk about films with panache, for instance. It was not really the same kind of man, but it was not only someone who was put there just to help Malraux. It was someone who had a past, and a past involved in film culture and promotion of film culture and heritage as well. So that's one of the things I helped to put the light on. What I could say to give people the desire to read the book is to rediscover this story, because actually you can see the network of people interacting to construct or just put the ground of what we are living now. For instance, around Cinémathèque-Française or other cinémathèques, you will have festivals, initiatives, films made with archive, writing of history books, and all what we are living now was experimented by this time. I also would like people to see documents, because I tried to share a lot of sources that I consulted during all my research, photographies, because I wanted to explain why Langlois exhibitions could be so impressive on people. So I decided to study their originality thanks to photographs, and to compare them with other exhibitions by this time, exhibitions of cinema, but as well exhibitions in all kinds of museums, to really see what was original in this model, and especially with Langlois. So I just would invite people to discover these photographs and to look at them with new eyes, and yes, to read as well the huge big quotations I'm always making, because I want people to construct with me an interpretations of all this documentation, and to understand all the public debate around the film heritage by this time. And I would be happy to discuss with people to see that they are not, they don't agree with me, but just because we share these sources, I'm putting together in the book. And you will also discover very rare documents, like all the drawings or plans of the 15th anniversary of cinema, which was already a museum project, but that never came to the that never existed. And yes, read the book and come and discuss.